Do we suck at homeschooling our children? This is a question that we wanted to answer, and we wanted to dive deeper. to dive. We wanted to do.
Good to dive, mate.
We wanted to dive deeper into the discussion of homeschooling. Like, what is it? Like, how do you homeschool your children? How does it make sense? Is there a wrong way? Is there a right way? Are we sucking at doing homeschooling with our kids, or are there other parts of our life that we're not quite like picking up?
Yeah.
You're right.
And there's no gauge, so just so you know that you can't like go online and be like, oh, I suck at homeschooling. It tells you like on a 1 to 100 how shitty you are at homeschooling, how suck you are at homeschooling. And I know if you put it out in the education community, that they'll say that it's bad. Probably the way that most people homeschool, honestly.
Well, let's start with this first. Hello, guys. I'm Yana, and this is Naaman with Everyday Blythe, and we are talking to you about homeschooling and do we suck at it, and how does a parent even know where the heck to start with the idea of homeschooling your kids?
Yeah, and there's a lot of reasons why people homeschool these days. It's a lot less kind of fringe, I think, than people used to think that it was.
It's less the families out in the woods.
And maybe it never really was, and that's just how people thought of it. How they perceived it. But there's a lot of reasons now. Like, we want to travel and be able to continue to travel in the future, so regular schooling wasn't really that good.
Well, we can start with like, why would you want to homeschool in the first place? Why are people or parents right now deciding that it's a good idea to pull the kids out of school?
Hey, I just thought of something. Let's start with this. Why would you want to homeschool in the first place? Do you have any ideas? I'm just reiterating. Is my face screwed up?
Yeah, it is.
I know. Coming soon, a video about Ball's palsy and its lasting effects on your
about
YouTube
Ball's
channel.
palsy. What's that?
Ball's palsy.
You said coming soon a video about Ball's palsy. I don't want to hear about that.
My face is screwed up, as you can see, and I'll do a video soon about that because I'm sure you guys
we have some great footage. Remember with some footage of when your face was properly not moving. Yeah. But yeah, back to homeschooling.
Not anymore Ball's palsy.
Like, why do people want to do homeschooling right now? And I think a lot of parents specifically, are realizing that our school system is broken.
Yeah.
I don't think it was ever good.
No.
But what we have learned before is that the education system that we have now of massively sending children away for a super long time and separating them by age. It's only like 100 years old, this educational system.
The way that you do it, where it's all broken up by age specifically, is like, it's a very interesting idea that no one really, I don't think, would have naturally thought of, because older kids help younger kids, and younger kids have this relationship.
That's how
with
it was,
kids.
though. If you go back to the original one-room schoolhouse, right? You had everyone from learning her ABCs to gonna graduate, high school and go on to teachers college, because that's what they seem to like to do. Yeah. Like, they were all in the same room, and so you always had this like mixing of like the littles learned how to deal with the olders learned how to slow down and be gentle with the littles. Everybody helped each other out. You were all kind of this one big group. And then I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Rockefeller was the one that created the idea of our current school system.
We can fact check this, or you guys can fact check this. I'm sure you will anyway.
And the whole purpose of it was to create really good workers, because he was a millionaire, billionaire, whatever. He wanted really good workers in his factories, basically. And so he created this wonderful school system. Come, send your children away so they can be educated, and then they come out and they're great workers. And maybe that worked back then. Maybe we needed that with like the Industrial Revolution. Well, I mean,
technically today we need good workers too, but they're all going to college instead. But
that's a different topic.
That's a different topic. We can get into that later. But so, one of the what would you say is one of the biggest reasons right now why people
probably
are choosing?
Misalignment of values.
Yeah.
Bullying. And
not even very much success in teaching. Yeah. Like, how much are kids learning per year if you were to kind of rate that? And I know there are ranking systems of how well education system works. In the US, it's not very effective.
No. And then also there's like in Oregon, I remember we were hearing how I think they stopped making you do tests at all. They stopped making you like requiring that you can read, that like basic stuff. And so I don't, you know what? And here's my question is like, are kids getting stupider, or are teachers getting more and more lazy? Or is it because there's such big class sizes and you can't like connect with each kid and really work with whatever weaknesses they have? Because why would you, they do grading on the curve or something with the curve, right?
We don't know any of the
I don't know any other
specifics.
technical stuff, you guys.
We're just hearing all this information from the public school system, and overall we know that's not good. We don't know a lot of
But basically the idea was that there was enough kids in school, like in high schools, that were slow and were below what they were supposed to be. So rather than like getting together, let's give extra education, let's really raise them up, let's help them out, they took and they brought everybody down. And so you have like really smart kids that have potential to go on and do whatever they can, college careers. Now they're all like brought down to a dumber level. And what is that with society? Why not raise everybody up so that we can be smarter and thrive together, rather than be like, you're kind of dumb. I think there's a little more dumb kids in our school. Let's lower the standards.
Bring the standard down so that no one's really striving for anything. I mean, what are the smarter kids going to do other than probably get bullied?
Well, you're a nerd.
You're a nerd. We're going to beat you up. You got an A, idiot.
That's probably a really nice face.
I bet that was an extremely nice face.
But okay, so that's reasons. Okay. Some reasons, right?
Another reason, though, is a flexible lifestyle for things like travel. It's really important. Some people just don't really have the option or desire to stay in one place all the time, or maybe you only have one school where you live and you're just stuck with that. Like I hear about all this desperation, it's like boundary exemptions, for instance. Like you really want your kids to get in this one school,
and a nicer school, but you have to move.
Yeah, you have to move for it. You have to hope that they grant you an exemption. It's like, just take them out of that garbage. I don't know.
Yeah, and then I think from the conservative side, there's just too much misalignment of values right now with things that they may be pushing, and parents don't want that. Or perhaps they're even teaching things without allowing parents to, first of all, know the curriculum beforehand, or like send a note home and say, by the way, this is what we're going over. Because when I was younger, this is only 20 years ago? Can't believe I can say that.
2 decades ago.
It's 2 decades ago that I was in elementary school, and they were teaching about like periods, like just basic stuff about periods. And they would send notes home and they would say, if you want to exempt your child from this, just sign a letter, whatever. And then your kid is going to be doing library. You're just basically sitting in the library coloring or reading books or something.
Yeah. So parents at that time, I think parents expected a certain, even small level of respect for knowing at minimum.
At least a notice.
Yeah.
Like, by the way, we're going to talk about this.
You hear a lot of stuff now, different areas of the country are going to be different, but that like they're telling parents it's not your business what your kids
there was a recent one where the woman was literally sued by the school board because she kept asking, what are you going to be teaching my kindergartner? And they refused to let her know. They said, like, you have to file these legal documents to find out. And she did. And she filed them over and over because apparently you have to do one legal document per question. And she said she had hundreds of questions, to the point where the school board, they got together to discuss the one mother woman, and then they sued her.
Yeah, or we're going to take a suit against her.
No, they did.
They actually
did. They put in a lawsuit against her because she wanted to know what the curriculum was and what they were going to be teaching.
Which doesn't really...
Her kindergartner, that's 6 years old, you guys.
That's not like a signal of trust.
No, yeah.
I wouldn't be like, well, I guess they're probably going to teach good stuff at that point, It's probably some pretty low quality stuff at best.
Yeah. Okay, well then let's go to, what about like education level? Like, is that a reason that parents also want to?
Some. I mean, if you have a kid who you think, man, my kid has potential, and you're sending them off to a factory of retardation, then not that if you have a legitimately retarded child, that's a problem. But if your kid is, of normal intelligence level and you want them to succeed in life, and you're sending them off this place where you don't like the look or behavior of a lot of the kids that are coming out of that institution, you might have a reason to be concerned.
But then I think you can even flip that on the other side, because you could have a child who might be, let's say, autistic or ADHD, or maybe not even any specific label, but they just have a really hard time sitting on their butt for freaking 8 hours. They need the movement. They need constant snacks. They need to go pee without raising their hand and asking permission, And so, like, if the child isn't thriving in a school, then you're just going to pull them out and be like, okay, I'm going to figure out how to homeschool.
Right. So there's so many reasons.
There's so many reasons.
You could have a kid beyond, you could have a kid with a different track that they need a different level of attention or more specific attention. Like if you have 50 kids, I don't know what the average class is, 40, 50, something like that.
No,
60?
no, it's like 30. I think 30 tops for an elementary school.
Oh, for an elementary.
Like
we don't know.
32 kids, 29.
I've never gone to a
something
public
like
school in my life except for this one that was
So
based
then
on delinquents.
here's another debate, is that before we had kids, I loved going to public school because I just loved it. It was so much fun. I loved having friends and stuff like that. So I wanted to put our kids into public school. Naaman had a horrible time at school, so he didn't want to.
School. I always hated school. Like, I don't know why. I don't think it's because I have like a mental deficiency for actually doing the work, but I like just didn't want to do it. I
think, is it the one size fits all kind of? Like there's one right way. In school, there's one right way to do it. There's one teacher, there's a classroom, 30 kids. Okay, we have a hard enough time dealing with 4 kids. So I get the idea that like you have one teacher, 30 children, you have to have some really strict rules and boundaries in order for it to be smooth and not utter chaos. I get that, but like it doesn't always work because each child is so different. Some kids thrive in that kind of environment. Other kids really need like a one-on-one, or like I said, like tons of breaks or stuff like that. Yeah. So we've kind of struggled with homeschooling because we do homeschool. Because like I kind of felt like I was thrust into homeschooling because Naaman was working and he didn't get to stay at home with the kids. So ideally, I would have worked. You would have homeschooled. That would have been
ideally. Honestly, we would have simply had our own private school institution, and I would have hired tutors in the days of old.
Yeah,
because the point of our homeschooling wasn't that like we don't have enough time with our kids, even though it's good to have a lot of time with your kids. But it was more because we wanted to control the education of knowing actually what they're learning and that they are actually learning. We're not gonna say that the people who are being produced overall in the U.S. at this point are coming out of high school are like what would consider to be a great place for America to be going.
No, I think that we can go to that maybe during the Industrial Revolution, a lot like mass workers were necessary to build up America, say, but now in they call the Information Revolution, school seems almost pointless in a way. Okay, I think socialization is excellent, but within the socialization of like letting kids socialize with other kids, you deal with bullies and all kinds of other crap like that, and it's something that they can't escape because like I remember one lady was saying that like technically you have to learn how to deal with the bullies, right? Like, but okay, as an adult, if someone's being an asshole or a butthead or whatever, you can just get up and be like, I'm not dealing with this, bye. Or if at work, you can complain to the HR department, and usually some kind of situation is gonna some kind of solution is gonna unfold, right?
But you can't do that at school.
But in school, it's like, you gotta grow up and deal with the bullies, or I don't know.
Which is hard because these days, I think there used to be, maybe this is wrong, maybe there used to be a level of respect. These days, like you see these stupid TikTok videos of like a huge guy like beating a young girl at school, in high school. It's like, where's she gonna go? You know, like maybe now that her face has been rearranged, they're gonna go transfer her somewhere else. But what about before that? And so, I could see the perspective of dread of going to school every day, knowing that you better dodge these bullies, or you're gonna have to like become a kung fu master. I mean,
they literally made movies, maybe cartoons, but for sure movies in the 90s of like kids hiding behind trash cans from the class bully, and there was no other option. They had to go to school. They couldn't get away from him. They had to sit next to the butthead that would constantly like pull her pigtails or do whatever and just be a butthead.
But it could be like more serious these days. Like people get like actually beat.
I know. And then here's the thing is like maybe back then, I don't know, 20, 30, 40 years, if something happened like that, I'm assuming there would have been a little bit more
severe consequence.
Well, consequences, yes, But like the other kids would be like, bro, what are you doing? But they wouldn't say bro.
Yeah,
they'd like,
because they had a native
they
tongue
had
at the time.
they had slightly different moral level. Now when somebody gets beat up in classroom, what happens? Everybody whips out their phone and films it. Not a single kid is like, let me get in there and pull you guys apart because this is mental. No, they find it amusing, or they're too stupid to do anything. And I think that's the other thing that I really don't like about public schools is that like, this is probably the biggest thing that flipped my mind as far as homeschooling is that I don't want to produce a sheep. I don't want to produce a child that cannot think for themselves and that has to go along with the crowd. And I don't like it. No. Like, I want them to be able to think for themselves. I want them to see, like, this is wrong, I'm not going to take part of this. Or this is wrong, I'm going to go tell to a teacher and I'm not going to feel like I'm a tattletale or something, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I don't want our kids to be like that. I want them to actually be able to stand up for what is right. But even now, in our world, what is right and what is wrong, guess what? That's really blurry now too. Because schools won't tell you what is right and what is wrong. It's what's right for you.
Yeah, there's no right and wrong.
What's right for me.
Yeah, but if you combine that sort of horrible infusion, I know we're kind of slightly off topic here, but it kind of wraps back around.
Yeah, it does.
If you take this whole no right and wrong thing, because everyone has kind of a different perception. If you combine this lack of actual right and wrong, even the basic concept of it, with the information technology age, you have like a really terrible recipe because now everyone is a creator, and this is ironic because we're creators right now, but kids who are like, they haven't even like formed right and wrong or a lot of other concepts in their mind, are also creators at the same time and under this constant societal and social pressure to be there documenting and creating these stories of life happening around them. They don't even know if what they're seeing is a good thing that they should be filming, but they're filming it, and because they need to film it, they're not actually interacting with what's happening in front of them like a kid getting their face punched in.
Well, yeah. Like, I think also there's such a desensitization. That's a big word. But like, from all the movies that we as adults watch with like, there's so much like punching, fighting, kicking, whatever, action movies galore, you know, that like you see it over and over and over and over. And that when you finally see the real thing in real life, you're kind of like, I can't really tell anymore what's real or what. Like, I watched this on TV last night and it didn't bother me. I'm watching it now. It doesn't bother me.
I don't know. I am able to see that like anything outside of a movie isn't real, but I worry more now that it's on these social platforms of video. Because then it's like, this happens in real life. I see it on TikTok. Hold
on, you guys, one moment. Our 2-year-old, almost 3, is crying. I need to take care of him.
Please wait while we direct your call. We've established there's a lot of bad things about public school, to change that word. But what's our next question?
I want to add a little bit on that as far as like, because I asked the question earlier, is public school really necessary? No. I think there's kind of 2 parts to it. Is one, it's parents are working and sometimes people just see it as kind of a daycare in a way. A daycare with benefits.
Like I hear that quite a lot in selling houses. I've heard that a lot. Like, that not only are people expecting school to be there to watch their kids, or basically for their kids to have a safe place to go while they're at work, but that they're in fact relieved that to get rid of their kids after a break.
I think that's one of the worst accidental side effects of public school, because you hear so many parents like, you guys might be one of them, but it's like saying that like you're dreading the summer vacation because that means that the kids are going to be there 24/7, and that you're so thankful, like, oh, so thankful school is starting. I need to get them out of the house so I can be myself again, or so I can think. And it's like, to me, that's kind of mind-boggling. Like, these are your freaking children, and you can't wait to get rid of them, and you don't want them to be there 24/7.
Well, I mean, if you want to dig a little deeper into that,
what's wrong with your family if you're like that?
If you want to dig deeper into that, you got to wonder, like, well, if your kid is so horrible, why is that the case?
So slightly a reflection of you and your shortcomings in parenting.
Because
we're not like judging or being mean or anything, because, sorry, but we see that in our own kids. I'm sorry. Okay, go ahead. I'll be quiet.
This is a bit of a question, because you have to wonder, like, what's wrong with your kid? is it because of you, or, oh wait, is it because they're in public school 3/4 of the year?
That's a good
You're
point.
having terrible influences.
Yeah.
Watching who knows
Yeah.
what on their phones.
I know.
Doing all this
You're right.
crap. And then they're coming back and you're like, oh, this kid's really
This kid
annoying.
isn't the kid that I wanted.
Like,
yeah.
how am I going to fix this? Oh, I'm
Yeah.
not going to because he's
Well,
coming
like
back to public
if
school.
your child is in public school for, is it like 2/3 of the day?
Well, I mean, if you think about the actual day, the sleeping doesn't count.
No.
And so a kid wakes up pretty early in the morning to go to public school.
Too early.
They're
My
gone
fault.
in the winter time. They get back, if they're on the bus, they're going to get back by the time it's dark.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're going to have dinner where everyone's actually going to watch Netflix instead of have dinner.
Yeah. And then you do homework.
You got to do homework. So
Sometimes now they don't even make you do homework.
consciously, the interaction between parent and child is like, let's give it a best of like an hour.
An hour. Yeah. For
So,
reals. And
when
so
you
like
think about
you're shipping off your
percentage-wise-
kid to be just completely taken care of.
Yeah.
It's not even daycare. It's like you are the food provider, clothes provider, and sleep provider, and their life happens at school.
Yeah. You're a provider of essentials, but not raising or care so much. Obviously, we're not saying all of you.
Yeah.
Some of you are obviously making an active conscious effort, and that's hopefully why you're watching this video. But it's kind of a disturbing thing. It's like a trend you see, and I hear it because I have worked in real estate. Some amount of time, and I've talked to different people, and I hear these kind of like recurring themes, like you got to make sure they're in by this time, and sometimes it's in a caring way, and other times it's like I got to get them in there because I hate my kids, they're so annoying. Or you hear a lot of the split family stuff, like, well, I mean, I only have my kid on this day, whatever. So that's splitting it down further. That's kind of another tangent, but. At any rate, I don't remember why we were talking about this.
I was saying, is school really necessary? So, on the one hand, you can't. People who cannot, maybe single parents, and maybe we should discuss that. Let's figure out how can a single parent homeschool? Because that would be a really wonderful solution. Because I am in so many different homeschool Facebook groups, and a lot of people are saying that like I'm a single mom, I really want to homeschool, but I just can't. I can't be in two places at once. So that'd be really cool to discover.
If you're going to talk about solutions like that, I mean, in that case, obviously your work has to kind of change.
Yeah, I think you're right.
A lot of times people, this is something to also think about with homeschool, is that you have to think about homeschool and education of your kids in a different way, because most people are thinking, how do I shape my life around my career?
Yeah.
Or my job? Because a lot of people don't have really careers at this point, but
No.
Around my job. And if you're thinking about it that way, I don't know, you might make that work, but more than likely your job's getting better into the stick. Your kids probably aren't. So,
okay. So on the
That's
one
where
hand,
schooling
we
comes in.
have parents that need their kids to be in a safe place for while they're working. But on the other hand, we've talked about this many times, but like the stuff that they teach at school, is it even necessary to know?
right.
Okay? Because like math, yes. Reading, writing, basic stuff, yes. Really, like true history, not all this fake history that people are coming up with and trying to change it to make it politically correct. Real history, things that happened in the past that we need to learn from and make sure that we do not, make the same mistakes again. That kind of history needs to
Lessons
be
from
worked.
history, which to my knowledge hasn't even, I don't know when the last time they taught that. We don't learn lessons from history in history class. It's remembering dates. Why do we have to remember dates?
What for?
I don't know.
Columbus sailed the ocean blue in 1492.
Yeah,
I do not use history dates in my daily life.
I don't like that everyone lives on search engines now,
but we are in a different age. You can't
age.
ignore it. Is that if you need to look it up, you can freaking look it up.
And you know what?
Like
Even 100 years ago,
Yeah.
if you had a set of encyclopedias, you'd be able to look up when Columbus was rolling around.
I mean, you were cool 100 years ago if you had encyclopedias.
A set of encyclopedias.
But now we have encyclopedias on our phone.
Yeah.
And our kids, so many young kids
Revisionist
have
encyclopedias.
phones. So many kids have phones, and so I just keep thinking, is the current modern education system, is it even necessary? Because we teach our kids in a very different way. Our kids, they have been zooming through their math books, their language arts books. They've already finished one. They're on to the next level. And they go through it so quickly. And we were just talking about this the other day, that you said that when you were in school, you don't remember ever finishing a book.
No, I think
We never
there
went
was
through the
one
entire
year,
thing, back to
one year
front.
that we did, and it was like this big deal. Like, oh wow, we finished that. What are we gonna do the rest of the year? The rest of the year was like 2 weeks, and the rest of the time, I don't even think we finished it. But the really interesting thing is, like, beyond a certain year point, you don't need the math, or beyond a certain English point, it's kind of like nice to know, but does it do anything? I don't know. When there's so many other useful things a kid could learn, like life skills.
Yeah.
Like, I remember out of all the time I went to school, and mind you, I didn't complete school, but out of all the time I went to school, there was this one class for like an hour where you learned to balance a checkbook in the age where we already had debit cards, and no one uses a checkbook anymore except for to pay rent.
Yeah.
So that was like the one life skill I could remember. What about everything else? Like, a kid is thrust out into the world. Now, I know you're babysat by college where they tell you exactly what to do also, but if you don't go to college or you come out of college, where's your life skill learning?
Yeah.
Where are you learning how to do useful things in the world? Like, I can't think of a useful thing right now, but if I could, I would tell you right now.
Well, what about, like, who teaches you how to do laundry?
Yeah.
Who teaches you how to sew on a button when your your nice shirt for work button pops off? Should be a really basic skill.
Ironing your clothes.
Okay, how
for your
about
interview?
cleaning your room and washing the dishes? And I know you can laugh, right? You can laugh and say that's so stupid. But I've watched videos where parents say that they feel guilty for making their kids do chores. That their kids should not have chores because it's not their house. It's not like, and it's like, this is mind-boggling. What is wrong with parents today?
No.
You definitely need to know how to clean, how to stay neat and tidy, how to do laundry, how to possibly garden, how to possibly change a tire. Life. How to respectfully talk to people, how to have an argument without losing your cool. I mean, we can
what
always
to do out in the
grow on
wilderness
that.
if your phone dies.
Okay,
Like,
yeah.
what to do?
How to read a map in case your phone does die.
Yeah, like,
Yeah.
these are just primitive examples.
Yeah.
I'm sure you guys could comment below and tell us what are some life skills that your kids maybe don't know, and you were like really kind of annoyed that they didn't know. I remember.
Well, here's a question. Is it necessary to be able to read an analog clock?
I think so.
I think it's so too. I can't. My children have asked me, why do I have to learn this? And I just tell them because it's a normal thing that we should know. I don't really know what the answer should be. But
why do you have to learn this? Well, because
it seems like if you don't know it, you're kind of an idiot. Watch, when you're 18, you take a trip to England and you see Big Ben. And you're like, wow, that's beautiful. What is that? What is that? Oh, it's a clock. Wait, what? How does that work? Like, I don't, what time does it tells you the time? I was watching again, and I know it's so hard to separate the whole social media from life because we are in this different information age. We're in a different age, but I was watching this thing where they're interviewing, I think it was either college students or high school students, and asking them to read a clock, and they couldn't. Yeah. They couldn't read a freaking clock.
Yeah. And unless you have like an actual dyslexia or something, I think you should be able to read
it's just such a basic thing, you know?
So if you're going through 12 years of normal school, plus another 4 to 6 often, because you're going to do associates, you're going to do bachelors, a lot of times masters, because the bachelor's is basically not good enough anymore, apparently. And you go through all this, and you don't know how to read or
He's
round
sore about
things.
that. He has a bachelor's.
Bachelor's degree is the only thing I ever graduated from. I didn't do high school at all. So anyway.
There's a concept of unschooling.
Which we don't do, but...
Don't make it sound like it's a bad thing.
I'm not saying it's bad.
It works fine for some families. It's just you have to figure out what fits for you.
There's a concept called unschooling that we don't currently do, but some people do. And
we might do it, but I don't know yet. I feel a little too uncomfortable to relinquish a little bit of educational control like that. But the idea is that your child is going to learn what they're truly interested in learning. And that say your kid really, they're going along, living their life, doing whatever, and they decide they really love the idea of archaeology. And I'll say archaeology because I'm totally into it right now. But they love it. They're so interested in it. And then immediately they're like, wait, I want to be an archaeologist. What do I need to do? And because you're ready, because you have the interest, and because you're at the right age and time, you're like, great, I'm going to do it. And so because you have such a deep interest in it, you immediately jump into it and you learn everything you need to know so much faster than had you been going to public school for 12 years. And it absorbs because you want to know the information, and it just, it downloads, and then you shoot off and you go and you become become an archaeologist. So what is the point of wasting 12 years packing stupid information inside your head that you bloody don't need?
Yeah.
You do not
well,
need.
I mean, even more importantly, you're not even going to retain it because
No.
you're so uninterested.
Because
you're
everything is based on tests.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with your mind or
you
what
have
you're
to go through these
in.
stupid tests, and ultimately, I mean, the guys are just sitting there zoning out, wishing that this hot chick was talking to them, not focusing on your stupid school, and vice versa.
Absolutely.
So that's another reason that you don't put all the same freaking category, I mean, age group together. But that's kind of another story. But
and so, like, I think that I argue that apart from possibly creating a safe place for kids, and if it was truly safe, because we know there's a lot of garbage goes on in schools, I don't think it's that necessary anymore, because it doesn't produce the kind of person that your child wants to be if they're constantly forced to ignore what they want and they have to do what the teacher wants. They have to ignore their interests and they have to do what the teacher tells them to do. You know, and then lately, you're not even allowed to argue with the teacher. You're not even allowed to say, like, but I don't agree with this. No, you're wrong. Be quiet. You have to answer the test correctly.
Not even like argue, but like just be like, oh, I know factually that I don't think that's right because of this or that. Like, the teacher loses their cool. Maybe not every teacher, but like increasingly it's an authoritarian kind of thing where they're like, well, no, because I am a title of teacher that I know. Even though that's just a bunch of BS because we're the age of teachers and we don't know everything. Oh, but they have special training.
Special education.
They went to like liberal arts schools or some garbage. You know,
I don't know.
It's nonsense.
So I don't know if public education is necessary because, like, we watched this other very interesting channel. I think it's North and South, and they have like 12 kids, and some of them are like, they have disabilities and yet they traveled all over the world and it's amazing. But I believe they did unschooling, and the kids themselves chose what subjects they wanted to do. And then they themselves took themselves to class. Like, I think most of it was virtual. And then some of them decided they wanted to go to college and they sat for entrance exams. You know, like, when you have a desire to do something, a real true desire, I think you will find the path and you're going to jump in and you're going to make it happen. Versus when it's thrust upon you and you're forced to sit in this classroom with kids that you don't care about or kids that you care way too much about, and you're like emotionally attached to this group of people that like is not good for you, you know, and that in the end you come out of school and you're prepared for freaking nothing. And then you have to be babysat in college, and then you can't think for yourself or on your own.
The thing you're prepared for, conveniently, is more public education or some other private education. So the big question is whether or not we're doing homeschooling wrong.
Yeah.
And whether you can even do homeschooling wrong.
Yeah, that's what I want to know, because I have been coming up to different little blockages that's making me think differently about homeschooling. Because, okay, our oldest kid, not just mine, he does not like to write. He just doesn't like to write. He's not interested in writing. He doesn't care about writing. He doesn't want to write out, sentences. He knows what a verb is, what an adjective is, what an adverb. Like, he's learned all of the the structuring of words, but he just doesn't care about writing stories. And so the assignments that he does, sometimes he has to write a story, and we've gotten to the point where he either types it because he physically doesn't want to write it, or he'll just orally narrate something, and I'm just going to accept that story. And it made me think, like, am I allowed to do this? Am I allowed to just
and
say,
whose
like,
permission are you supposed to accept? Are you supposed to like go to like the education board and be like, is this going to be okay? Which obviously their answer would be no. But like, it is a good question. And I think the real question I would probably ask is, are our kids learning enough to be suitably ready for life? Right? I mean, that's really all that school is allegedly for.
Okay, if we go back to writing, I think writing, I don't know, it's in order to be like, okay, there's kids who want to be a writer, there's kids who want to be an author, there's somebody who wants to write books, and that's great. Learn how to write, right? But if you don't want to do anything with writing, how much is it necessary? How much truly do you need it? Like, when you would write essays in high school or middle school, what was the point of it? Do you take the writing skills, like right now we have texting, and like, do you even converse correctly with bosses at this point? Like, I just don't know.
If you take college out of the algorithm, You're not getting ready for college, because I know a lot of people say like, "Oh, man, do you want to know how to do it in college?" Well, first of all, that's BS, because in like a community college, which you can definitely start with,
You can learn all the
there's
skills
people who
that
are
you
like,
need to learn.
most of the kids there are freaking
You
brain
have
dead.
many
you know?
basic things that you can learn.
Yeah.
Which kind of brings back to the unschooling idea that when you're ready to learn something, you will learn it, and in the best way for you to retain
And
it.
it doesn't mean, like in the archaeologist example, it doesn't mean you're literally going to choose your ultimate career and work your way there. You might be like, a kid might be like, "Well, I wish I could be like a rock climber and learn everything about mountains and stuff," and then like a day later they're interested in something else and they learn that. That's fine too, because they're ultimately going to push themselves toward learning different things.
So, okay, how our homeschooling works right now is we wake up, the kids have breakfast, and they usually, okay, our oldest two boys, they're 12 and 9. Currently, and they usually start on their school by themselves. They have an assignment, and they just start on it. There's like a little video you can watch that goes along with the assignment, or you just read the instructions and you do the assignment. And that's been working fine. And I think it's pretty great because they're learning to self-start, which is really great. Yeah. But like, we've adopted a different system very recently. Very recently. But like, so one day.
Was this like something you started today and you were telling me about?
No, we started this week. But on 3 days a week we do math and language arts, and the other 2 days we do science and history.
Oh, yes.
And so like history is we read from a history book and then we talk about what we read and how we understood it. Science, we usually watch like YouTube videos or shows or movies about different kind of like science things. Like one day it's archaeology, one day it's let's learn all about
volcanoes.
India, volcanoes, or like the mountains,
tornadoes.
Yeah, the ocean, the rainforest. Let's learn about ladybugs. Like,
Yana likes it when I suggest people learn about leaf shapes.
Naaman has been pumped for years. His vision for homeschooling was like,
it's the only thing
we can take our kids in the woods and they can find the leaves, and then they can make like a leaf book and identify which trees.
I think it's a relevant assignment. You probably only have to do once though.
Yes, but we've done it like once, like for 4 years, because Naaman every single year is like, we should
probably do that. Yeah, I don't know why. It always springs to mind.
My question is like, are we doing it wrong? Is there wrong? Because, and again, maybe it just depends on your family and how things work for you. Because Naaman's sister-in-law, brother's wife, you guys know how that works.
Should we explain that relationship?
I think so. But like,
someone we know.
She was very like. At least for all of us outside of her family, we thought she was so good at homeschooling. And like her kids were learning Latin. She got them into this like classical communications group where like you had parents would prepare classes and then they would teach maybe like quarterly or something. I don't know. But like, and so they would learn Latin and they would learn like these bigger, more in-depth subjects. Mm-hmm. And I think that's great. But in the end, like, I don't know if Latin is necessary. It could be interesting and fun to learn, but like if your kid doesn't want to learn Latin, do you need to try to teach him that? If your kid doesn't want to learn how to freaking write, do I have to say like, well, my teacher taught me how to write when I was in school, so that's probably what I should do? Or am I allowed to just write the rules for how to do education?
Yeah. I mean, if you can't write the rules for education in the U.S., you may as well just throw the country in the trash.
At one point we were doing coding. Our kids were learning how to code with Minecraft, which they thought was really fun. Right now, they're also doing learning. Learning.
That's good.
They're learning language because I speak Russian. My family's Russian and Russian, Ukrainian, Soviet. They're Soviet. Okay, let's get that straight.
Yeah.
But so they're learning how to speak Russian using apps. Like.
Although,
in our school they
think they should learn Spanish or Japanese.
Okay,
it's more useful.
Well, we can do that too.
Yeah, or I mean,
if we
Italian.
Write the wrong rules.
If you want to get like a sexy chick in the future, like Italian.
Be quiet.
French.
Okay. Just kidding. I love you.
I know.
Okay. Okay, and so our school day usually lasts about an hour.
Yeah, but for administrative reasons, in case the government's listening, it's actually 8 hours.
Oh yeah, all day long.
Everything else we're talking about is just like This is make believe.
Yeah, but like they used to do handwriting practice, and now they know how to write, and their letters look pretty good. So we kind of stopped that.
They resemble letters.
So like math, language arts, and then reading a book. We make them read. You know, and I feel like the more you read, the more you're exposed to different words, and the more your vocabulary grows. And so, like, maybe what they're lacking in writing, they can pick up in reading, because after all, reading is reading.
It's like the opposite of writing. Writing is goes down this way. Reading, it goes up this way. That's basically the gist. If you've learned those concepts, you know enough to be successful. But I feel like we're not being very concise. Our kids could learn that, how to be concise in when they're talking to people.
Yeah.
Basically, here's how our school works. Our kids wake up, they're self-starters. They start with their math usually because they can start the best with that.
Yeah.
Then we move on to some sort of English, but on 2 days a week they do history and or science. And then currently they're learning, but apparently learning English, Russian to kind of summarize. But
so my question was like, am I okay with having such a quick and concise like they are learning, and we get books from the library all the time, and they love to read. And like our son Teddy was super into Greek mythology, and he just like devoured this book and was reading about all of the ancient gods and stuff.
Then they watched a bunch of YouTube videos
asking questions
about mythology.
Yeah.
And so he kept
So once
asking
again, like
questions
they definitely have interest, and their interests are leading in a way what they want to learn about. But it's not, it's not what you would expect in like a formal education. And so I guess my thought is like, if you want to homeschool, do not do
that.
Don't think that you have to create like the school environment at home.
Yeah, that was a big thing. I think that. And it probably sold people a lot of school supplies during the pandemic. Maybe I'll make that do that. I bet they sold a lot of school supplies and or whiteboard boards. I can't even speak. They sold a bunch of whiteboards. I bet they sold a lot of things during the pandemic because people were like, I gotta recreate school at home. And you gotta have like, I better set their alarms for such and such time. Gotta have like a little board.
But realistically, your kids can wake up at 9. They can eat breakfast and work on their math. They can go and scooter outside and come back and do their reading. Like it's so flexible. It does not have to look like school. And so it just depends on like maybe how much time are you willing to put into it? What
Think about this. I mean, here's how school works is it's in shifts, right? You have these different class periods, right? And you have these little micro breaks where you're supposed to walk from class to class, and you have a few breaks. What does that remind you of? It's like shifts and lunch breaks later on in work. Yeah. It's just the exact same thing, so the transition's seamless and smooth. I'm not being a conspiracy theorist here, because conspiracy theory is really just a term for something that hasn't been proven with facts, and we already have facts on this. So anyway, if we're to say we don't really care about our kids following that exact structure, and here's another interesting thing, okay? If you're worried about your kids later on and wanting more structure, or you want to put them in like a cool Japanese international school or whatever, your kids are adaptive and they'll learn. Like if we put our kids into a different school right now, I mean, first of all, they wouldn't like it, but secondly, they would adapt and they'd be fine after not that long. They'd be like, oh, this is how it works. Okay, cool. Yeah. Like, don't think your kids are stupid and that you have to like really just gradually prepare them for every eventuality of formal education. Like if your kid wants to be in an organized thing at some point, I'm sure they'll figure it out. Like, it'll happen.
Which actually we really need.
Yeah, here's another thing, okay? Let's completely start like a new chapter at this point where we're talking about socialization, right? Okay, here's an interesting thing about socialization. Yana has been relatively social in her childhood years, much more so than me.
Yeah.
We both went to school, though. I wasn't homeschooled until I had like flunked out of everything. So I went to school and had like class sizes between 20 and 30, right? There's enough kids to speak to. But somehow I was like deathly afraid of speaking to everyone. All the way up until I was actually in the workforce, right?
Don't hit me.
Bam, bam. Trying to get my points across to Yana here. And so obviously being around other kids isn't really what prepares you for socialization or creates socialization, right?
Yeah.
That just like, why did you talk to people?
Because I really wanted friends.
Yeah, see,
I had a motive.
Yeah, well, that's an important thing. It was like, why does your kid want to be here in this environment? Why would they want to make friends, et cetera, et cetera?
Well, and let's take this a step further. We got married, we had kids, and the roles flipped because guess what? I was at home with kids, and babies were my life, right? Like I had to be there and I had to help them, and so my like social life kind of disappeared. Naaman had to work, and so he was thrust into the manly job of providing and being out there. And so what did he learn? He learned how to do public speaking. He started teaching in his work, like doing classes, telling people, this is how you do things, this is how you don't do things. Yeah. Now he's in real estate. He's constantly meeting complete strangers and doing completely fine. And I'm like, I forgot how to have friends. You know, so like...
Yeah.
It
now, to be clear, I can only talk to people about things like home warranty and flooring, but still.
But like you learn, and then you're capable of learning skills later on. Which,
that's really interesting.
Guys,
like,
that's kind of partly why we're doing this, because I really need some girlfriends. Girls, please be my friend.
But only if you're like really meet my standards as like an interesting person. But anyway, so we're talking about socialization and the fact that you can learn to be social, and also being in a space with other people doesn't mean that you're going to be social. You know, that's just that's not how it works. Yeah. And so our son Jude is nearby. He's wearing an orange sweater.
He ran away.
Anyway, I don't.
So I don't know if we're doing.
We're basically.
Are we sucking at homeschool? Possibly.
Yeah.
Are we doing it wrong? Maybe. Maybe not. Yeah. Are our kids better off at home than they're at school? Possibly.
Probably.
But like this is what we chose for our family, and so far it's been okay. They know how to read. Our son Jude is really good at math and just like jumping forward, leaps and bounds.
They're learning history and they're interested in science.
Yeah.
They're interested
Valentina wants to be a scientist. She thinks it's so
She's
cool.
literally like collecting all these rocks. She's 6. She's not even at an age in Washington State where she has to be in school yet.
Yeah.
And she is collecting all these rocks and like really interested in making her own book about the different rock types. So I mean,
our son is 2. Our youngest son is 2, and he knows all his ABCs. He knows all his numbers, you know, up to 10. Well, he does like 12, 30, you know, whatever. He knows all his colors. When he was 18 months old, he was singing the ABC song. Yeah. We can put in a little clip. So like he's also learning.
Yeah, and we're not those parents who are like, I better make sure that my 12-month-old knows all the states or all this weird stuff. Like, we don't really care about it, but your kids are going to learn naturally.
Naturally, yeah. Kids just want to learn. That's the way they live. That's the way they grow. That's the way they, you know, they explore the world around them. They want to know how. They want to know why. They don't know what is this? Why is this? Yeah. Who is this?
When is this?
Why is Gamora?
Where is Gamora? I'll do you one better. Who's Gamora? I'll do you one better. Why is Gamora?
Insert that quote.
Yes. Like, you can homeschool. We'll give you permission right now to take your kids out of school. Mm-hmm. Give them a period of like a month to deschool. And that's an interesting thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's also, I mean, if you were going to do that, it'd vary a great deal depending on their age. It'd be so much easier if they were younger, because you'd have to like cut the communication line really between you and their school friends are going to be like, can't believe you're at school, we're smoking crack at school, whatever, you know, like whatever. I mean, that's just a hypothetical.
But there is this concept of deschooling, is that like if you take your child out of public school, that they may have been under a lot of stress and waking up early, or maybe dealing with a bully, or maybe with a teacher doesn't understand them, or with like lessons or classes that weren't getting through, and rather than like quickly you get them out of school and quickly you jump straight into doing homeschooling lessons, you just give them like a period of time to just sleep, to eat, to calm down, to feel better, and just to naturally like explore topics that the kid is interested, and then slowly kind of then you jump back into a, you know, a curriculum or something if that's the way that you want to go.
When you look at a lot of people who come out of college and they join a job, right? Mm-hmm. Often it's a big corporate job because a lot of people go into those types of careers, but and because those businesses are so large. But you hear a lot of people, especially if you spend very much time on YouTube or podcasts or whatever, that they came out of college, right, and they might have done quite well, and then they join this career that they worked toward this whole time, and not that long later, they're like, I don't want to do this.
I don't want to do this.
And that's kind of the crazy thing about the structure of school, starting from preschool, if you put your kids in preschool, all the way through grade school, all the way through college, is that there's this structure where you might make a few decisions in college, but not that many. Overall, it's just like, this is what you're going to do. This is your track. Remember that term? They already have the track laid out for you, that this is what you're going to do. And then you finally get to the real world later on, and you're like, wait, now I'm free to make my own decisions. And I'm like, oh, crap.
This isn't what I wanted.
This isn't even what I wanted. Why did I waste all that time? And even worse in the U.S., like an enormous amount of money on college.
I know, at least in like Europe, it's paid for.
Yeah, at least in some parts of Europe, or it's reasonable cost. Like here in the U.S., like you can be a couple $100,000 deep or more before you realize, oh crap, I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
And you know, the success stories are people who make a lot of money and come out of that and realize I'm making way more money in my college thing. But there's a lot of people it doesn't happen to. They just have a ton of debt. Anyway, that's kind of an aside, the debt thing, but it's more wondering like the structure that you follow in school, it's so structured. Does that help you in the real world, or does that limit you in you're always looking for a structure of a job to kind of like hold you together?
Yeah, I can see that. I think maybe there's pros and cons of both, because I was just thinking as you're saying that like, say somebody does come out of college and get into the career and realize, I don't want to do this. And then so they jump into something else that they actually truly are interested in. I think possibly what doing college and the career would teach them is a way to be disciplined, a way to finish what you started, and to kind of push yourself because you've been practicing so long. Like you have to get your exam done, so you push yourself to do it. You have to be there on time, so you push yourself to do it. And so maybe perhaps if there was a different structure to teach kids to be disciplined and structured in whatever it is that they're pursuing, that could almost be better.
I could see the benefit of knowing that a structure would help you get to a goal, but don't forget that it's completely different when someone else is telling you that you have to have this paper done or something compared to yourself.
I think that's the con. And the con is that you have... our son is filming us for some reason, making a short out of us. Don't
make a short out of us.
One second, Jude, let us finish this, okay? The con is that because ever since you've been basically a little kid in elementary school, preschool, all the way up through, how old are you when you get your master's? 30, 32, 33, like our age?
You could be a little less than that if you did it all the way through, I think.
But anyway. 30 years of answering to a person, that somebody, like you said, that they create a structure for you and that's all you literally know. And so when you're finally free, like you see the memes that are saying like, I can't believe they're allowing me to just be out on the streets, an adult on my own. What am I doing?
Yeah.
Like,
these adulting memes, I hate that term.
Adulting. So like without that structure, all of a sudden everybody's lost. Like, what do I do with my day? Nobody's telling me to get up. Nobody's telling me to exercise. Yeah. Nobody's there expecting me to show them my clean laundry that I did on time.
Which is interesting because we saw that during COVID, the couple of years of COVID, especially 2020, when people are like, they didn't have any structure that someone else defined for them, and they a lot of people have struggled to be useful to themselves. Yeah. Some people were like, I'm going to do like home improvement or different things, but. Other people were like, they like really struggled and got depressed and all this stuff because they couldn't define things for themselves. Think about this now. If you're not homeschooling now and you're thinking, can I do it? The answer is yes. Because like the bar is set
so low.
If you're talking about what your kid actually learns per year in school, like the amount is like astonishingly low. Sadly, but
I think the difficulty would probably come in figuring out how single parents can homeschool.
Yeah,
and I think we should research that and try to figure out what are people's solutions. I would think one solution off the top of my mind is doing a group homeschooling. Yeah. You find a lot of different single moms or dads who want to homeschool, and then you guys kind of create like a little co-op yourself. Yeah. And then so you would say like this week, I don't know, you'd figure out a scheduling where like obviously 1 week everyone's at one house and everyone else can work, and then you like take shifts kind of.
Yeah, if you took shifts with other single parents or something, that could work. Obviously you just have to actually have an income source that's going to work with that. that's probably going to be your biggest challenge. But if you really want to make it happen, you really value your kids' future and believe that that's a good alternative, then do that. Otherwise, you obviously might look for a private school or something like that as the other option.
Private schools are hit and miss too.
Established, can you homeschool? Yes.
Yes.
Are there really specific rigid ways you have to do this? No, but there are occasionally some standardized tests, right?
Yeah, depending on which state you live in.
Yeah.
Some of them literally, I think they either send someone to your house or you have to bring your kids into a facility for them to do testing to make sure that they're like on par with the other kids.
Yeah. And
if you're in a state like that, I say move to one of the more lenient states if it's what you like truly want to dedicate your family and your children to.
Because from our perspective, we think it's really silly that people are so unable to like be a little flexible in their lives, but we're very, very flexible. So that's just us. But here's an interesting kind of like bonus myth buster, by the way, is that homeschooling isn't just like a US thing. People kind of think of it that way, I think, at least in the US because we're so stupid.
I think in the US is probably the biggest homeschool community and the ones that really push it.
But there are a lot of other countries where you are either legally allowed to homeschool or it's not actually illegal, so you can do it.
Yeah.
So it happens around the world.
Yeah. We're going to wrap this up now. And so we'd love to hear from you guys. Do you think homeschooling is a good or bad idea? Do you think that there is a right way or a wrong way to homeschool? Do you think that public school is necessary? Or do you think that we could technically do without it? What do you think about unschooling? Have you ever heard of the process of deschooling? There's so much here.
Yeah, we're really just scratching the surface, kind of just throwing a bunch of stuff out about homeschooling just because it's something we've done for a little while.
Thanks so much for being here and listening to this. If you are at the end of this, I'd give you a candy bar or something and a hug. Thanks for being here. Please like and subscribe if you like this kind of content. We will be posting more very soon, and have a great day.
Arrivederci.
Bye.